My name is Abouzeid. I'm American, I'm Lebanese, born in the United States, less than 10 months of age. Over the course of my life, I have lived and worked in more than 35 countries. I've been to the North Pole, I've worked with the Bedouin in the desert, I work with people, sharing with other people who they are, what they do. I'm a visual reporter, I'm a visual documentarian. I was raised in a privileged family. I was raised to be a great success. From the day I was born, I wore jackets and ties because I didn't know if an ambassador or a prime minister or somebody was going to be in my house, and I had to be perfect. I went to New York University. Then I went to Georgetown for my MBA. I was to be my father's replacement. My father was an incredibly successful immigrant. I was supposed to be that. And I can honestly tell you at this point, I've never failed. I've never failed in my life. I'm not sure why I'm here tonight, and yet I am an absolute expert in epic failures. That may seem like a paradox right this second, but in a few minutes I hope you're going to understand it's not in any way. It's actually the truth about both of them. But let me start with a story. Okay? As I said, I went to get my MBA, then I went into banking, then somehow I got into mergers and acquisitions, somehow I went to Asia, and somehow I became what was known at the time as the Asian Tiger. I would buy and sell companies whether they wanted me to or not. I would sell them in pieces. I would fire everybody in the company. I was doing this based on economic models they had taught me. I, in my mind, was making the world a better place. And also at the same time, making Chase Manhattan Bank a ridiculous amount of money. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought I was Martin Sheen. I thought I was the good guy. I thought I was doing everything to build. Turns out I was Gordon Gekko. I created a path of destruction across Asia, and slept well at night, because I really believed what I was doing. Until one day. One day, I was closing down an entire branch network in Korea. 2,000 people were going to be fired. The evening before, I get a phone call saying, "Are you ready to go to the airport?" And I'm like, "For what?" He said, "Well, you read the rules. In Korea, the person who decides the firing has to communicate it. So you're getting on an airplane, go to Korea, and you're going to talk to 2,000 people about why they're getting fired." No problem. They'll understand. It makes good economic theory. So I go there. And between people in the room and video connections, I've got 2,000 eyes looking at me. And before I even began to talk, I realized that I was fundamentally wrong. That they were not just resources that can be moved anywhere, that they should just understand the economics of it. I was destroying lives, history, family, pride, everything these people had. And I didn't lose a night of sleep about it. The 20 guards that had walked with me in the building, I understood why were needed. Because they tried to kill me. And they had a right to. From that day onward, I couldn't do it anymore. I knew it was wrong, but I decided to go through and look at, the projects I'd done. There had to be a good one, right? Somewhere and all that. There was one deal, the first deal I did that was really, really good and made sense. And so I was about to call the chairman, who was an old friend of mine, when I got a phone call. Dumry, the chairman, had just put a pistol in his mouth and killed himself. The one deal that meant something to me was just as bad as all the others. So, at this point, my life is so great that I consume huge quantities of alcohol and drugs. That's how happy I was, or thought I was. And on my 32nd birthday, with my newborn child, my wife who's pregnant with another one, my own bank, which I had created of my own because I was that good, all falling apart, I found myself in my office being told I wasn't allowed to come home and that my family would be leaving in the morning. Obviously, having drunk all day, it was my birthday, come on, 32. And got some beer on the way and called my brother, as I was to do in these moments. And he said something that no one had ever said to me. He said, stop calling. Kill yourself, do whatever you want. I don't care anymore, we're done. Stop calling. Well, suicide is painless. So I stick a gun in my mouth, and I'm about to pull the trigger. Using Buddhist philosophy, saying, okay, it didn't go well this time, I'll start over, okay? And in that 1 second, when I'd given up on everything, the future of my children, everything I had, and no longer could come up with any reason or any rational logic why there was a reason to go ahead, this thought popped into my mind. Maybe it's not the alcohol, but if you cut down a bit, you could figure out what the real problem was. So I quit drinking. I lose my business, my wife stays, which later on you won't be sure if that was a good or a bad thing, but at the time it seemed like a good thing. And I lose everything. I lose everything, and one day, I'm on my knees. I don't pray. I was just on my knees. I didn't know anywhere else to go. And I remember saying to myself or to God or to whatever else was around me, I can't do it. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the next step is. I don't know what to do now. With my amazing brain, with my amazing experience, with everything I have no idea. Somebody take over for me. I can't do it. And things changed. Now, the next day, I went bankrupt. Which, the Asian tiger going bankrupt, to me, was gonna be a publicity stunt like you've never seen. Come on, there were so many people that hated me, they would be lining up to say something. And you know what I found out? The next morning, no one even noticed. No one cared. Some people called me up after 3 to 6 months, proposing deals, because they hadn't even paid attention. It really didn't matter. Nothing I did had mattered before or after, except where in their egocentricity we overlapped. So the great catastrophe didn't happen. In fact, I ended up laughing with one guy when he called me to get paid, and I said, there's no money, so we had fun, you know? And that's the first time it dawned on me that epic failure is an event horizon. It is the end of a road. It is when there is no place more that you can walk. But it is not failing. Because if you really loved what you're doing, I don't care what you're doing, you don't consider it a failure. You only consider it a failure when somewhere along the line, you missed out that this isn't what you love doing anymore. Or you're not getting love out of this. So, because we're so stupid, or so driven, or we want to follow the road we're on, you need an event failure. You need an epic failure for those of us that are especially driven. To say, stop. As I said, it's an opportunity born in humility. When you give up your control. And I don't mean that the answer comes from some strange force in the outer regions or God or anything like that. I mean, it's the point when your real body, when your real soul, when your quiet mind actually gets heard and gives you answers that you think are complete and absolute crap and discounted 1,000,000 times. But in that moment, you'll listen to anything. You don't care. You have the humility to know that you don't know. Or at least I did. And I am speaking for myself.
So with this newfound wisdom and desire to make more out of life, I end up interviewing Zen masters, Buddhist masters, alternative medicine people. I go do meditation. I sit with Japanese guys whacking me in the head while I'm trying to meditate, thinking about killing them, not actually my center zone. And I get involved in the internet about the same time. 1994, there was no www. Okay? But I decided that this was the perfect vehicle to let everybody know if you're in pain, change something. And we're going to give you all the possible alternatives there are. Find one that matches you, okay? So we basically created Zen and the Art of Website Maintenance. We had the largest online community in 1998 with 2 million people reading interviews, listening to online meditations. I mean, Wired magazine told us that their entire office shut down because they're all Zenned out by our website. We had the greatest philosophical minds of the last 30 years in interviews. But we only gave alternatives. We never gave answers. And yet more and more and more, we would get emails saying, yeah, but which one works? Yeah, but I just need this. Yeah, but. So we realized all they wanted was a pill. And when we couldn't go anymore with our money and we asked them for some money, we realized they didn't want to pay for the pill. 2 million people, we raised $42. And yet we had testimonials from thousands saying how we had changed their lives. $42 is what it was worth. So, I had the best team in the internet. We said, okay, no problem. We're going to work on other things for other people. We invented guerrilla marketing apps. We worked on Flash. We worked on lots of things. So much so that we started getting hired by venture capital people, by people that were investing in this, asking our advice, asking us what to do. And the whole market crashed. And so Mark found himself, again, doing this. I was the hatchet guy again. Somehow, in trying to build something new, I ended up being the guy that would come in and say, fire them, sell that furniture, and get out. I was in the same place. And it created an emotional epic failure. I crashed. I lost all hope. I saw no way to do this. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to build something and stop destroying things. Okay? But I had a bigger problem. This time I knew I wasn't a victim. This time I knew I chose this. This time I knew I tried the best I could, I did everything right, and I failed. And I reached an epic failure. Why? Because I never asked myself what I really wanted. I never questioned those values of the kid that will never fail. Because I never even questioned what failure was. What was my measure? I had 2 kids, a wife. I lived in southern Tuscany, the most beautiful property you've ever seen. I was building houses. I was giving up economic riches. I was giving up fame for something that was really beautiful and integrated, and I loved it. You know, this chart, if I'd done it when there was a young person, the word balance wouldn't have even existed. Okay? Life would have been a small one. Happiness and joy weren't in the equation. But that started to play a big part for me. And then I failed at divorce. I didn't fail at marriage. Our marriage went its way. But I failed at divorce. I first failed because I truly believed we could mediate this. We were friends. We were business partners. We were all that. We just didn't feel that way about each other anymore, and we were just going to split things up. I got a mediator who was just going to handle the whole thing. And then friends got involved. And then people started talking about money. And then 2 lawyers were in the equation. And suddenly it all became about 2 girls and how much money. And somewhere along the lines, and I think they're still regretting this today, the 2 girls decided to stay here. And their mother was going. So they stayed with me. So now suddenly I find myself with no business because they made me sell everything. 2 young girls, which I have to be at school at 6:30 a.m., make lunch at 1 o'clock a.m., all of this, and a digital camera in my hand. And a little bit of capital in the back. So I'm like, yeah, I'll try this. What the hell? Well, what I didn't expect was 10 years of court cases. What I didn't expect was I actually wasn't that good at photography and I didn't know anything about it. Now, I had a moment. I probably had one of the worst moments of my life where there was no hope anywhere. Nothing. And I wrote it. And, emails should not allow you to go out to more than 30 people or check if you're drunk. Either one. I wasn't drunk, but the 30 people I crossed a big time. And everybody got this and got the impression that I was either going insane or was going to kill somebody. I had no answers. I had a property of 2 houses I had to manage. Everybody was gone. I had a lawn this high. Everybody was gone. And my marriage was at an end and everything was going to hell. So everybody sends me really nice letters and what can we do and we're there for you and all of that. And then I get a call from an airport. I get a phone call from my best friend who was working in Abu Dhabi. And he said, look, if I'm coming from the airport, how do I get to your house? I was like, you don't need to, that's really nice, but he goes, no, let me rephrase that. I'm at the airport, how do I get to your house? And he arrives, and he says, look, I don't know shit about marriage, mine's worse than yours. I don't know anything about renting houses, mine's, horrible, but I managed a golf course for 10 years. I think I can help you with this grass. So for 7 days, we smoked cigars, we mowed the lawn, and we didn't talk. He was my outside voice. And sometimes it's not inside, sometimes it's somebody else. He was the one that made me say, take one thing at a time and deal with it, and you'll figure it out. Now, 15 years later, I can say that in that moment, I found the only true scope of my life. It was to be a father. It's what I do well. It makes me a better man. It makes me do things I could never do, and it's what gives me the most joy. What I do today and everything I do as a father. I teach as a father. My work is to transmit for other fathers. And believe it or not, there's not a project that I take on that the 3 of us don't agree on, that we don't talk about, because they're also the ones who remember all the crazy ideas. All right? And if the scope of my life was to take what I think became in me a good person that's trying to do good things and help other people as well, then the scope was to make another person like that, to transmit that. And I made 2. So in my mind, I've shifted the world. I can die tomorrow, and I succeeded in the scope of my life. I have no problems with that. Everything else is just fun. Warren Buffett said, it takes at least 2 failures before you truly succeed. I've talked to a lot of billionaires, and the number's 2, it's 4, it's whatever it is, but it's never 0. Epic failure is an event horizon. You can only fail at epic failure. You can only miss seizing the opportunity to question everything you know, because something that you believe isn't the way you think it is, or you would not be considering it a failure. Epic failure is a message, nothing more. Thank you.